We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
What is up, everybody? We are back in a very different world than we were in before. Welcome 2023. As Rob said on the last podcast, we have welcomed a baby bear to our family named Eva. So excited to have her here. Eventually we'll get her on the podcast, but right now she doesn't really make any sounds that make too much sense. We're excited. Rob got a smile today. I barely get a smile. So, shout out to Rob and his mom who got a smile, because I certainly don't get those very often.
The uncles are the best, because all we do is we get to do all the fun stuff with the kids, and then we don't have to endure any of the repercussions of any of the fun stuff we do with the kids.
That's fine. As long as you don't teach that baby shark, we are all good. No problem.
That's in my Korean blood, man. You know what? Like all of my friends who have kids now that are like 1 or 2, it's like Coco Melon is top tier. Bluey is also top tier. That's just top tier in the things that they watch consistently without fail. So that's in your future, man. Like it's Cal football highlights and then mixed in with a little bit of Coco Melon. That's probably where you're headed.
I take great pride in not knowing what that is right now, and I'm very scared to find out.
It's on Netflix. That's all you gotta know. It's on. Oh no, is Bluey on? Bluey's on Netflix. Coco Melon's on YouTube. Yeah, you're done for, my friend.
Okay,
But it also is a saving grace for a lot of parents.
I'll make sure to ban both of those channels.
Although I will say, and this is where I was such a sidebar, I will say I've watched a couple episodes of Bluey with my buddy's son Jack, and it's actually pretty hilarious. Like some of the jokes are definitely made for adults watching. Like it's not fully for kids.
So it's like a Pixar movie.
Yeah,
it's,
like
kids something for everybody.
Yeah, kids won't get some of those jokes, but I was laughing.
Well, Rob, I look forward to this, and if there are any repercussions, know you're playing with fire. But nonetheless, that's not why we're here today.
We're not.
We are here to build some hype, as per usual. That has not changed. This is the Hype Podcast. This is where we have unabashed and unbridled enthusiasm, optimism for the Cal football program. Hell, we might even rope Cal basketball in now that we have a new Cal basketball coach, which I hope you all enjoyed learning more about, because I know I did, with Terrence, Nick, Rob, and I only know the
Don. It's Don.
Don. Yeah, I only know from the non-real name on Right for California. So that was an awesome podcast. Congratulations to you guys. That was really great. I'm super excited about Mark Madsen, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the spring game. I should have said as we opened, we are a proud partner of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Thank you for finding us. Cal spring game was on Pac-12 Network. I fully intended on being there in person. Rob was on the field, so we will mirror we will give you both of those views in a short bit. There are a few things, Rob, that I will turn this over to you to talk about in regards to overall in and outs and transfers and, who's here, who's not. I don't know if
It's
you want to do that just off the top of your head. There's obviously some
oh
bigger additions and bigger subtractions that have taken place. And I feel like some way it may have gotten on the pod pre-baby, but I can't totally remember because I can't remember anything that was
yeah.
pre-baby.
Yeah, I'm like frantically opening up calbears.com and like looking at the roster. Um let's just go with where the roster is right now, right? I think the biggest loss heading into spring ball was of course J. Michael Sturdivant and Femi Oladejo, both of whom have walked over down the I-5 to Westwood, and then a few other guys beyond that with like DeCarlos Brooks, Chris Street, um, your friend and your forever running back Damian Moore, um, who else? Ben Coleman, and then on top of that, there were a bunch of defensive players, but the main ones, those were the main ones, and then we had a couple more after spring ball that entered the portal. Caleb Higgins, the defensive back, just entered, I believe, yesterday. I think the day after or 2 days after spring ball, Elijah Maharo, the tight end, also entered the transfer portal. So that's currently where we stand. That also does not include some of the entries we had. Asher Alberding, the tight end from North Texas, JT Byrne, the tight end from Oregon State, Brian Hightower, the wide receiver from Illinois and Miami, Noel Williams, defensive back from UNLV, Caleb Moore, the defensive back from Colorado, David Reese, the outside linebacker from Florida, Sergio Allen, the inside linebacker from Clemson, just to name a few.
Yeah. I mean, I will miss Femi a lot. I loved watching him play.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to feel like, especially at running back, I feel like the talent we brought in, I mean, and J Mike too. I mean, I shouldn't leave him out. We miss, and I think that, does transition well in the spring game. That was just a noticeable absence
Mm-hmm.
as an option and as a threat. But if you were going to tell me that those are our losses, and then we're also going to add what I think was some good depth at offensive line, which is clearly an issue.
Mm-hmm.
I think we did that. And I don't know, I come out on the side of the portal feeling like, all things considered, we added more talent and depth at positions of need than we lost. But I
Well,
don't know where you came out on that.
I think the big thing here is that the portal's not done, right? Like this is the second wave of guys that maybe didn't get a starting spot, or one out in spring ball, or they realize their stock is higher, so they're entering the portal now after. Just a bunch of guys that you see. I mean, like us, we just added, of course, Philip McMorris, the safety, the all Mountain West safety from San Diego State. So he's coming in the fall. We were going to go through just a bunch of pointers, and like talking points. And one of my talking points was that it sucks to see some of these guys leave and they're looking for opportunities elsewhere to play. But that also, on the flip side, means that gives us a scholarship to kind of work with and see if we can add someone through the portal that not only adds depth, but maybe challenges for the starting spot. And that in itself creates depth, right? So particularly the offensive line, I know they're looking for a quarterback, that's for sure. We only have 4 running backs on the roster right now, and 2 of them or 3 of them didn't play in spring ball, so you probably don't want that. You probably want to add one more there, and then of course, as I mentioned, you probably want to add one more quarterback, maybe a guy who's actually had some real Power 5 experience, and maybe a starter somewhere, and probably later on in his college career, right? So probably like a junior or senior is probably what you want. And then of course defensive line and outside linebacker, if you can find a couple more, that's probably where you would want to add a couple. So once again, yeah, you're getting numbers to play with, and that's where this kind of gets interesting in who you go after too.
And let me know if my read is wrong on this, but I do feel like the transfer portal now isn't as anxiety provoking as the transfer portal in December.
It
Be-
is.
right? Because like
Yeah.
now, if you're going to tell me that we're going to lose somebody because they felt like they were slipping on, I feel like it's because they see somebody else stepping up above them on the depth chart and they're going to make a move because of it
Yeah.
versus like, that's not why J Mike left. Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, is that right? Or is NIL still as big a factor now as it is in that December period?
Well, I think it's just priorities flipped, right? I think it's still a factor, but like I think in that early period, it's number one is NIL, number two is playing time. I think now it's number one playing time, number two NIL. I don't think
Yeah.
either
Okay.
or doesn't exist in either transfer portal periods, but it's just the priorities have switched a little bit.
We are truly, it's almost like we've entered into an era where they talk about like always on recruiting,
Yeah.
and we've entered into this era that has even amplified that further,
Yeah.
where always on recruiting, it just like it never stops. I mean, once the money's involved and it's flowing around as much as it is.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of mimics the pros a little bit, right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
just you have actual games, and then it leads into the draft, which is like high school recruiting. Then it leads in the free agency period, which is the transfer portal. That happens twice, especially in college football. And so you have news and stuff to talk about year round now. You know, you're mimicking what the NBA is good at and what the NFL is good at. And so yeah, this definitely makes it more interesting. This roster isn't going to look like this come August or July. Heck, it probably won't even look the same come in a couple weeks. You know, so it's definitely fun to watch. As you said, it's not anxiety inducing as much this time around because the guys that have left or that we were like, oh, please don't leave. Those guys have already gone. You know, and we're not worried about the Jeremiah Hunters or the Maven Andersons or the Jaden Knotts leaving at this point.
Right.
So it's interesting. It's we're in a brand new whole new world here. I mean, like, look, the story I'll bring in is I was listening to after someone noted it, and then that's why I listened to it. But they were talking about in the Shutdown full cast. Spencer was talking about how he heard someone, or he has a friend who was eating dinner with Mario Cristobal. They were at like a steakhouse or something like that, and Mario Cristobal asked the waiter to put his steak in between slices of bread so he could eat it with one hand so that he can continue texting with the other. Like,
What?
that's a wild story, but that just tells you how, like, if I would assume it's in the middle of recruiting, right?
That's the example for always on recruiting.
That's pretty much what it is at this point, right? You always have to be in connection to everything that's going on. You don't know which players are going to be available at any given time. Like, look, Colorado just had their spring game on Saturday. One of their wide receivers went off for 145 yards, and then he enters the transfer portal today. Like, so that's always on recruiting. It's at this point it is, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Can we take a second? I mean, the hype at Colorado
Is unreal.
Is unbelievable. Is there a coach out there that you feel like could do that to Cal, like for Cal in the same way?
That much hype?
I think I have one that I would throw out there, but I'm curious to see if you know, looking at, if you were like, okay, seeing what Dion has done at Colorado, is there a coach out there, basketball or football, that, you know, obviously all this is just a totally hypothetical, you could see them doing the same thing?
That type of, I don't know, but I'm also of the camp that, like, around Colorado and Dion right now, I would love to be proven wrong. Like, I'm not a believer in what's happening over at Colorado. I have the opposite. I'm like pretty critical right now, and I'd love to be proven wrong, but like they're bleeding talent left and right. So,
Interesting. Okay. What? All right. But play my game for a
but I will
second.
play your game for a second. Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to buy time because I'm thinking through my head right now, and I'm like, what type of coach would bring that type of hype and like
If it's helpful,
enthusiasm and fun?
my pick would be basketball. So
Okay.
the person that I'm thinking of is basketball.
I mean, I would assume for Cal, Jason Kidd
Exactly.
is probably the one dude that would do that. But so the thing with the thing I'll argue against Jason Kidd in that scenario is that he doesn't have the personality like Dion does. He's not the showman on camera that Dion is. Like Jason,
It's true.
for all his coaching, like stuff. He doesn't say anything outlandish or like doesn't love the camera. Like he's more focused on the basketball aspect and the coaching aspect of it. So like even for a football perspective, just from like a hype thing, like Ron Rivera coming back and coaching would like draw hype, but would it draw like the all the ESPN cameras and Fox and TNT cameras like Dion is? Probably not.
Good point. I mean, yeah, I think Ron's a good pick. I was gonna say maybe like Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, if one of those guys went into coaching, who was super like fired up and all that, then yeah, maybe. But we don't have a guy that's that like I don't know. I don't want to say this, but this is the only term that comes to mind. Like a sports diva personality.
You got to think like I guess Marshawn. People were probably saying, "Why are you not saying Marshawn?" Because Marshawn did have television cameras. People have figured out if you put cameras in front of Marshawn, it's incredible content,
and you'll get clicks and you'll get views.
Yeah, so I think like from that perspective, I think he could galvanize the Bay Area in a way that would actually be it would be different than what Dion is doing. But I think like if he wanted to, like I could see that. I could see Marshawn kind of being that like a really.
I mean, you could hire him at any position, just on the Cal team alone. And I mean, already, right? He has the Beast Mode marketing team set up, and it's like people want to sign with him.
Yeah, that would be. That's an interesting one.
I don't know if it'll ever happen. Who knows? Maybe. I don't think he wants to coach. He's living his best life right now. But if he ever did, it'd be very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Love it. Well, on that note, with the spring game, Cal had their spring game.
Mm-hmm.
It was on Pac-12 Network. It was announced by Roxy. Wait, am I right on that?
Yeah,
No.
it was Roxy and Shane.
And Shane. Yeah. Like, dude, gotta give some things up for Baby Brain here. I watched at home, and I gotta say, so I'll just lead off with some initial impressions. I don't know if I was expecting much. I enjoyed hearing from the various coaches and all the kind of side interviews that had happened and all of that. And I didn't really know what to expect, but I did feel like, and the announcers said this, but they did put together a pretty entertaining, at least like beginning of the spring game.
Yep.
And it was obviously like very Wilcoxy in the sense that like everything was a competition. Ones versus twos, one versus twos. It was like one-on-ones. Like there's always a competition factor going into it, even the kicks and all of that. And that's just like so core to what Wilcox believes in. Compete in every single aspect of what you do, whether it's on the field, off the field. And I think that was really cool to see. But the biggest thing, obviously, where our attention was on the offense.
Yep.
And let me tell you, from the very limited purview that I had watching at home on Pac-12 Networks, I was pretty stoked.
I would not think that you would say the opposite.
I mean, what we talked about here, like I think the callback is that we talked when I asked you what your ideal offense would be, it would be like an up-tempo offense, similar to the Chip Kelly Oregon offense that was run up there. I saw a lot of tempo.
Yep.
A lot of
Yep.
tempo. And like they're talking about how they're not even going to do huddles. They're going to look to the sideline. They're call everything at the line. Like, I mean,
Yep.
that is, and it was fast. There was
Yep.
fast. There was fast plays. I'll talk a little bit about, Sam Jackson a little bit later, but like just from an overall view, like what can you actually pull out of a spring game? Not much, right? Because you're
Yep.
playing against the same team. So if the offense scores a lot, well, maybe your defense sucks. Or like what we saw last year was with fall camp, even, well, our D line might be good. Actually, it turned out that our O line had some serious issues.
Yep.
And so it's really hard to understand what you have and what you don't have. But I felt like the one thing you can kind of look at is a stylistic choice of where they are going.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the definitive answer that we got was we are going very different than where we have been.
Yep.
And I don't know if we could ask for anything more, but I'd be curious to get your perspective being on the sidelines. And I know that we texted a little bit as it was going on because I had some reactions to certain plays, and then you would give me some good color analysis being there in person and seeing what was happening and what wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's the mind games and basically we played game theory, right? And we played, the last 7 years or so, like what would have happened if we had kept Sonny Dice's offense with Justin Wilcox's defense? Like what would that have looked like? We're going to get that at least for the next 2-3 years. That's basically what we're getting, right? Can an up-tempo, high-octane offense stylistically, can it mesh with a defense that likes to grind and bend but not break and tries to play the time of possession game? Does it work? I don't know, but we will find out. I think what you said was everything was spot on. It's clear. I think, when Spav was hired, it was clear that Wilcox had changed his MO on offense drastically. He had realized the pro style doesn't work. The spread run game offense that Bill Baldwin tried to bring in didn't work. He tried to bring in more recruiting heavy guys on the offensive side by giving up some of the coaching. That didn't work. So he basically went all in on, look, I'm going to go for up and coming guys that have coaching talent, but hasn't gotten that shot at the Power 5 level yet, that are hungry to recruit. And we're also going to go with an offense that might tire my defense out, but it won't matter because we'll be up 45-17. So who knows? Like maybe that's he's okay with that. But that entire style is totally dependent upon our need for depth at every single position, because we're going to be running fast tempo, which means guys are going to get tired on offense. If our defense, which is pretty solid, comes away with, either a turnover, then the offense is back on there. But our defense also, judging from the last couple of years, has kind of turned into this bend not break. So we'll give you 3 points on like a 7-minute drive. But the issue with us last year and the year before was just that we couldn't score in another 7 minutes of ball possession, or we would turn the ball over with a 3 and out, 1 minute and 20 seconds after letting them score 3 points. So the defense would tire out really quickly. I do wonder if this type of offense, which is boom or bust, and we're going to turn the ball over too. It's clear, right? I mean, this offense is built on a little bit more risk than some of the previous offenses we've had here. And so once again, does those two stylistically mesh with what you want to do, and not blow up your entire depth of everyone needing to get out there? Like we might have to run out like all 5 of our running backs.
Right.
It's just guys are going to get tired. Like we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tight ends on the roster. We're probably going to see all 6. It's just the way that the speed goes and the personnel groupings go. Like they're going to need fresh legs on every single drive, especially if we go tempo with no huddle too.
Right. And the concern too was like, if you run at such a high well, the problem with Sonny with us was that he would have those long or like quick scoring drives. He would also have drives that took a while, but like what ended up happening is we would score fast and then but we would go 3 and out fast.
Yeah.
And we felt like that had an adverse impact on the defense and their ability to actually catch their breath and get on the field. And so that goes into conditioning. I mean, I do remember Sonny's first year, we had like a record number of injuries when we
Yeah.
like tried to basically take that previous roster and then up level
Up-tempo
that
it, yep.
conditioning to them. Like we just literally had nobody that we were plugging in there by the end of the season.
Yep.
So I mean, definitely some question marks there, but I do think like as football has evolved too, that this style, like that combo, like we're not the first.
We're
And I
not.
think so. I take I have some confidence in that. Like other people have kind of proven that you can do it, and we've sort of seen the game evolve that direction. Where I don't think you're totally being like the first to do it. However, like definitely not. You're not the last to an emerging trend.
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the things I'll say off of that is, people talking about, well, Spav didn't run the ball when he was here in 2016. He also didn't use tight ends. So like, how is he going to adjust to that? Will there be an adjustment period? The flip side argument to that is he came in here for 1 year and was working off a roster that Sonny had built over 3 years. Like he was working within the confines of the personnel that he had. If you actually look at what he did at Texas State, he had tight ends in that. He did actually run the ball with some pretty solid splits between passing and running. That's the type of offense that he likes to call and run. And you can even go back further into his years at Texas A&M, so, or even West Virginia. So, like, if you're only going off the Cal stuff, sure, that 2016 season, but I'd err on the side of his entire career versus a single season here in Berkeley. And so
Yep.
I'm kind of intrigued with, how it's going. And then of course, like the added thing to that is they added a position, right? They added run game coordinator, which we didn't have before. And they added that and they gave it to Mike Blesh, who is the offensive line coach at who came in from North Texas. And it's clear some of the stuff that he did at North Texas, which was successful, which we saw firsthand when we played North Texas 2 years ago, is there. And he's working with whatever offensive line he has right now. I'm hoping that we can bring in a couple more guys, some tackles that can play. But as of right now, like, this is one of my notes is they're using the tight end and they're also going with a lot of split zone and zone insert run plays. So I was talking to our dear friend Jesse, who is the person I talk to, and him and Peter are the two guys I talk to when I need to be taught about football. And Jesse gave me this diagram of how split zone looks versus how zone insert looks. So to describe it to you in words, so split zone is basically if you have the tight end attached on either side, the tight end cuts across and blocks the weak side, and the entire offensive line shifts and blocks in the other direction. So that you have a running back that can either hit that backside gap or finds a slit in between the slide of the offensive line. In zone insert, what you do is instead of having the tight end cut all the way across, he cuts into either gap on either side of the center. And in doing that, that creates an inside lane, and the guards all are blocking outward. So then the tight end is usually hitting that second level and hitting one of the middle linebackers, and that gives your running back another edge. The team that does this incredibly, ingeniously, of course, is the Niners, because they use Deebo Samuel as that tight end, and then sometimes he'll block on a split zone. Sometimes he'll just fade out, and then you think he's blocking, but he just leaks out into the flat, and then that's where you toss him the ball, and he's off for like a 30-yard scamper.
Yep.
So that's where it gets interesting because they're adding these concepts and they're realizing, look, we're probably not going to have an offensive line as of right now that wins one-on-one battles. So what can we do in the run game? Let's get guys moving. Let's start pulling guards. Let's start pulling tight ends. Throw the defense off all the time. The lead blocker changes on every single play, and our offensive line is running with a little, and is running forward, so they have a little bit more momentum instead of hoping that they stand there and push a guy off into a certain direction to create the gap,
which is what we did last year.
which is exactly what we did last year, and we kept doing that last year without fail. So yeah, this is where it gets a little bit interesting now. And just knowing that Spav said on Friday before the spring game, right? Offense is about 50% installed. We got a long ways to go before we actually see what this offense fully will be in terms of a play calling standpoint and what they want. Even Spav was talking about how they played 10 different guys at center. I think it was like second week of camp. He said that, and it's because he's still evaling guys and trying to figure out where guys are best, placed. So hopefully that happens over the summer. And then this is what I've been telling people is like my prediction and projection of this offense probably won't come until like week 2 of fall camp.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Excellent. Put it on the books. That's the podcast we need, Rob.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think like I'm really excited about all of that. I think like to your point about running backs and why would a running back like if Spav didn't use running backs or didn't run the football, I mean, there's no way that you're gonna bring in the quality and caliber of running back that we've brought into this program in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
Unless they're gonna get extended use.
Yep.
So I think that I think my overall wait and see is definitely more on, okay, like what does this look like with the defense? Like how does that impact the defense, and can the defense kind of adapt more so than, because I mean, I think a lot of people have said previously, okay, like our defense has been like, to your point, it's been more bend not break than it has been dominating defense that we had seen early in the Wilcox tenure. So can a bend not break or a non-dominant defense, potentially work with this style of offense? And then for me, it's like the strength of this, as they were saying this nonstop in the spring game as well, is like, look, the secondary, we are turning into a secondary factory, which is great. We should brand it. We should continue to do it. Like, I think Daniel Scott is going to do really well in a week on, I'm very optimistic on where he's going to go. So hopefully I don't jinx anything here, but, I think there's going to be a point where you look up and you're saying, okay, like look at all of these guys that have come out of Cal and made it into the league and are performing well. Like Cam Bynum has been playing pretty solid in the NFL for a couple seasons now. So,
we're quietly turning into DBU.
Yeah,
very quietly.
We really are. And I think like linebacker, you feel great about the talent that came in. Obviously, you talked about the loss of Femi, and I think that's real. But like, you have Jackson Sermon coming back, and Sergio Allen that might plug in alongside him. And then the big question is the D-line. Like, same question as before, right? Yeah. Like, is Brett Johnson the same player that he was pre-injury? Hope so. Obviously, you got to knock on wood for some good health as well. And then how are we creating pressure on the quarterback? If we can do that, like, I don't know. I really like the look of, and you can just tell like there's a little bit of confidence. Like I remember like Avi said this coming out of camp last year. It was like Wilcox really liked the way the team looks. And he was really happy, obviously at quarterback, and just sort of felt very confident. And the season didn't go in accordance with that confidence, but I sort of felt that in his interview in the spring game as well. It was like you could tell, like, all right, coach is pretty confident and happy with where it's going
Yeah.
and where we're at right now. He's also very complimentary of Spav. Like, I don't know, maybe he's talked about other coaches that way, but like he was like, I thought one of the lines he said, he was like, we have already been incredibly impressed with how good of a coach Jake Spavital is. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I'm going to segue. I just want to talk about Sam Jackson. I got to talk about my guy from Chicago. I don't lay much claim to me being born in Chicago, but when I can, I do. And this is going to be one of those moments. The thing is, once again, I'm not going to, like, the first play was sick. I loved it. I loved it so much because it was like scrambling, like a deep throw and like good arm and great catch by Jeremiah Hunter. I was just like, I'm all about it. It just was different. And, it was like right out the gates, we're gonna go over the top and make a big play and gain a huge chunk of yards. That was really great to see. But the big takeaway, like the thematic takeaway from Sam Jackson and what he adds to this team and to this offense, is speed.
Yeah.
That dude is fast. And like, I just was like, maybe not the most. I felt like, Mendoza both of them were slightly more inaccurate than I expected,
Yep.
but
That you can clean up.
the speed, you can't coach speed, dude. That,
Nope.
that we're seeing it with De'Aaron Fox, dude. It was just impressive. I don't know. So that's me watching at home with the baby in my arm. You're on the sideline,
Yeah.
or in the end zone, depending on where you were.
Well, yeah. I mean, go ahead.
When he's running on that end zone play and basically beating, I can't remember if it was Noel Williams, but he was beating the DB to the pylon, and he turns that corner, and it looks like from that one camera angle that the DB gets his hands on him, and then you see from the side like he didn't. And Shane Vereen's in the broadcast booth freaking out about how fast this guy is. Like, is that speed in person as impressive as it seems watching from home?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was talking about this, like the first week of spring ball. Just like you see him and it's like the butt kind of comes off the seat, right? And you're kind of like, oh, what is he going to do this time? I've talked about this twice now. Like I've talked about it. I talked about it with Roxy when I was on Sirius XM radio last week. I talked about it with the Oregon guys when they wanted to do a post spring game.
Small flex.
Yeah, small flex. I talked it with the Oregon dudes, the Addicted to Quack, Hithliday, and also our dear friend Adam from the Quack 12 podcast. And that podcast probably drops, I think, next week or the week after. So you guys can go listen to that. Shout out to them. But yeah, I said it in both. Like Sam Jackson is probably the most electric quarterback we have ever had here at Memorial Stadium. And I've talked to Steve Kroner about this too. I've talked to all of the guys who have longer Cal histories than Andy and myself combined. And that's because Andy accounts for like 85% of it, and I account for like 15. But there's not a single person that you can think of that mimics the type of athleticism that Sam Jackson brings to the quarterback position. And once again, you can't coach that. That's just innate ability. And so when you see him with the ball, then when you see him in a broken play and he's scrambling, he throws a jump pass all the way across his body, and or like a flip throw that goes for 8 yards, or a jump pass that goes for 12. You kind of get excited a little bit. You do as a fan. Now, I will play the other side of this, where as an analyst or just like someone who just wants to be a little bit more rational, we had a quarterback that was predicated on scrambling and making plays because plays were not working, and that was Chase Garbers. And now I'm not saying anything bad about Chase. I'm just saying from an offense execution standpoint, you can't base your offense around broken play scrambling and improvisation, right? You have to be able to use even just the base play and execution of that in order to move the ball, because not every play is going to end up with a 5-yard sack ending up in a 15-yard touchdown.
The last person I thought you were going to say was Chase Garbers. I thought you were going McElwain the the whole way.
I mean, we could go McElwain, but I'm just going with starting quarterbacks who we've had that's like, scramble and very improv.
I mean, I'll take Chase. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I'll take the overall, like, if it was the exact same production, but like it was a better floor comparison than I was expecting.
Yeah.
But so my question is, if you look at what the Chiefs do and what Mahomes does, are you telling me that to the untrained eye it looks like chaos, but to the analyst, much of what that scramble and offense is by design?
No, I'm actually saying the opposite. I'm saying that the chaos, like the chaos highlight reel plays, like you can't rely on that as an offense.
Gotcha.
You can't be expecting that to happen every single drive, right? Like, we Pat Mahomes is like the easy example just because he's so electric when it comes to broken plays like that. But if you watch the Chiefs play, so much of their offense is so methodical, and like they gain the 5 yards, 6 yards, 7 yards, 8 yards. And then they go with the electric plays like that. The issue I had with the spring game and the offense, and this is where some of the con takes away is that a lot of Sam Jackson's throws and what he was doing out there was very improv based, right? And I don't know whether that was just him getting antsy in the pocket, him not being able to see some of the other play routes develop. Maybe this will all go away in 3 months when he has a better understanding of the offense as a whole. But that's the one part I wasn't a fan about, because I wanted to see which quarterback could probably work the system the best and just keep the engine going instead of the electric play that everyone's all excited about, the ESPN top 10 play. So that was my biggest worry with Sam Jackson. Mendoza, on the other hand, I was fine with, because some of his throws and his inaccuracy was there, but you can't coach speed, but you also can't coach height, right? And the dude is 6'5". He's sitting in the pocket and he sees the guys open. Like, the offense and the wide receiver routes are predicated on guys getting open, right? That's what it's made to do. It's not the Bill Musgrave one where it's forcing wide receivers to beat their guys one-on-one, but the passing concepts open up guys at least one or two on any given play. It's just a matter of the quarterback finding them through his reads. I felt like Mendoza was doing that properly. You never saw him really scramble that much. You never really saw him, try to throw across his body and make an amazing play. He was happy to sit there and throw. And the dude also has a, subtle athleticism. You don't think that the 6'5", 220 guy can run, but you run him in an RPO, 5 yards from the end zone, and he'll punch it in. I
thought both of them threw a ball that was impressive to me. Like, the spinning, they can clearly spin the football.
Yeah.
And like that was the thing that I liked so much with Jack last season. I just felt like he had a good arm. Like, dude.
Yeah, the mechanics are good for both of them. That's for sure.
And so I think, like, to see Sam Jackson scramble out and then have the arm strength from a scramble play to put that ball, that was like on the money to Jeremiah. It was great. It was also a great catch. And then Mendoza too, like, even on throws that he missed, I was like, okay, like, I can see you missing that, but like he wasn't missing them in the wrong, like he wasn't missing it because it was an interception. It's just like overthrowing it out of bounds, which was fine,
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the staff loves Mendoza, but before go fully that direction. The other thing I want to talk to you about is like this idea of like an option route. And
Yeah.
it sounds like we're going to do more option routes.
Yeah.
Does, going back to the previous point, does an option route feel more like organized chaos than by design success? Or like, what do you think that, I don't know, I just would love your takeaway there, like both relating to the previous point that you had around like kind of by design offense, and then some in, some overtly wild plays baked within it. Like, does an option offense give you that excitement more frequently? And could there be somebody that observes that might be more of a casual viewer that confuses that type of success for unpreparedness or chaos? Because I keep going back to
Yeah.
that word.
I think so. Here's the thing: if you're running, this is my stance on that. If you're running an option offense, whether that's the RPO game or running backs or wide receivers running option routes, so on. If the play execution is 100% efficient, you won't be able to tell the difference whether it was an option route or a designed route, and the throw and the all the entire execution of the play. You should not be able to tell.
You've had Wendy's nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo or honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're a real heat seeker out there, you can try spicy ghost pepper, only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. Listen, I'm going to dare you to do it. I dare you. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs that you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and then grab a few more napkins and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's.
The moment you can start to tell those things is the moment where it's like it goes crazy.
Yeah, good point. Love that point. That's great.
Yeah. It's like the offensive line, right? Like if you're not being called out for doing anything, you're probably doing a good job.
Yeah. It's like going to yoga. It's like,
exactly.
if the instructor, I used to, my early yoga days, I'd be like, yeah, like it was great. The instructor like talked to me like 6 times and shouted me out. And then Dai's like, nah, that's not what you want. You want to like be in and out of there.
Yep.
You know, you don't want to be the one where they're coming over and giving the correction too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's my take on it. It's like if you're able to tell that it was like an improvised play, something bad went wrong. That wasn't by design.
Yeah. So you've seen spring practices, you've seen the spring game. I throw you in, say, Rob, you're now the offensive coordinator for Cal football. You have to choose your starting quarterback. You have the choice of Sam Jackson, Fernando Mendoza. Just out of those two right now, who do you choose?
If I'm running Spav's playbook,
yeah.
Honestly, I might go with Mendoza.
And okay, let me give you a third option, which is outside transfer. Same 3 option or same question, but now you have the ability to go with it. Grad transfer.
Go with the grad transfer portal. Okay. I might still go with Mendoza.
Damn, and all the coaches are so high on him. So why? Like, give us more, because like,
so
they're super high on Mendoza, and I feel like he was like a 3-star coming out of Miami, right? I don't think he was a 4.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you started to hear it more and more. So like, what's the hype around Fernando?
Well, this is going to sound like coach speak, but it really isn't. I think the first couple of things is I really like Mendoza as like a leader on the team. When I see him in the competition periods and things like that, the dude is just, he never says anything bad, or like he always tries to uplift all of his teammates, regardless of the situation. There was one I remember a couple weeks ago in spring ball where he kind of overthrew, I think it was Javen Plummer on like a go route, and he comes off the field and he threw the ball like basically out of the end zone, right? And this is like from 40 yards out. Mendoza he jogs all the way over to Plummer, who's like getting off the field and walking back. So like Mendoza jogged like a good 40 yards, like meets him at like the 2 or 3 yard line, and then walks back with him and is talking through like where the ball placement should have been and what Javen saw. And you could just see them like talking through it, and they both give each other like a helmet tap, and then they go back and work again. But once again, this is not like a Mendoza does this, but Sam Jackson doesn't. Like, I'm just talking about Mendoza and what I've seen of Mendoza. So first, I love that aspect about Fernando. In terms of the play, I just love his ability a bit more to sit in the pocket. I think his ability to deliver the ball to the wideouts all over the field, I think, is a little bit better, and it's a little bit easier at 6'5" than 5'11", especially looking over the offensive line. The thing with Sam Jackson that, talking to some of the writers, and I have to agree with them, is like, maybe there is a reason he's doing all those jump passes is because he can't see over the offensive line. And if that's the case, like, man, jump passes are so risky because you're committing to the pass there. There's no going back when you make that jump pass.
And then the flip side of that is Tim Tebow. Let's go. But,
different type of athlete. But
could you see a world in which both of them play? Like, you have Sam Jackson sets with a Mendoza, is it if Sam Jackson doesn't get it or he's out?
Buddy, you and I have been down this path before. We've been down this path multiple times over the last 6 years. We can't go back to another 2 QB or 3 QB or 4 QB system.
With that speed, though, I do feel like it's different.
It is different, right? It is and
it's not like it didn't work. Like, we won the Northwestern game because of it.
No, it's true. I think in sporadic moments it probably is, but I don't think your system should be predicated on 2 quarterbacks playing.
Yeah.
I don't mind giving him the occasion. Like, who's that quarterback? Oh God, what's his name? Stanford, number 0.
No idea.
You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's just he's the quarterback. Just sporadically is in there in a Wildcat run.
Yeah.
And it was effective, but like that's not 50% of their offense, and Mendoza being the other 50%.
Didn't he fumble and then we had a fumble return?
Yeah.
He lost them the game.
Yeah, but he also got them a bunch of first downs, in the first 2 quarters of the game too.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean the old cliche, right? If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks.
But the Niners, we got 3. Well, I don't know about that. We had 3.
You had 3. I think you have 2 now.
We have 2 now. Maybe now. No, I guess. I mean, I don't know.
You technically only have 1.
We have Darnold too.
Oh yeah. I mean, you technically only have 1 starter.
It's true. It's true. Who knows? Maybe we'll get Aaron Rodgers.
Oh my God. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I stand right now. I mean, Mendoza is definitely, I think, a little bit more of a safer pick. Jackson is definitely a little bit more electric. So this is where I'm gonna just defer this decision until the fall, because there's still so much that both quarterbacks have to learn about this offense. And then especially if we're going to add option routes too, that means their chemistry with the wide receivers has to be spot on. Like, what the wide receiver sees, they have to, and the quarterback has to see the exact same thing. Otherwise, that's an interception waiting to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's gonna be a little bit.
My other impression from the spring game was at running back, but it is one of those things where I don't know how much it mattered.
Where we saw other guys, because 3 of our guys didn't play.
Right. So yeah, I just couldn't determine how much it actually mattered. But I did think Stredick looked really good. And I remember that specifically being, now I can't, did Justin Williams Thomas play?
He didn't.
So there was someone else at running back that I was seeing.
The 2 other guys that played at running back was Andy Alfieri, who is a tight end, and
right.
Aiden Lee, who is a wide receiver.
Right. Okay. Alfieri looked good.
That's what some people want. Some people really liked Alfieri as the big back.
He looked good. Yeah, he looked good. No, I was so confused. I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know any of these guys.
Yeah, they were down bodies, and some of these guys had to flip over just because they needed snaps, right? They needed to run plays.
Makes sense why Stradic looked good if he's the only actual running back. All right. Well, okay. So kind of moving towards wrapping up, give me like a positional group that you're most excited about. And if you want to shout out like maybe a player now that you are really looking forward to watching in fall.
I think can we split this up? Can we go offense and defense?
Yeah.
Okay. Offensively, the tight end group for sure, and we've been talking about the tight end group for God knows how many years now.
Man, my guy,
but just
we lost Jermaine.
I know, but just looking at how the tight ends have been utilized and like running them out on passing plays, like not using them as max protect. I feel like it's an actual position. Like, they asked Spav about that when I think it was like week 2 or something like that. And Spav said, look, like I didn't have any tight ends when I got here in 2016. Now I have 7. So like the dude's, I feel like he's one of those offensive coordinators and offensive minds that adapts to the roster that he has.
Yeah.
But once again, judging by his Texas State days, which is a good barometer of what he would do if he was fully in charge of the offense, he had tight ends. And so I think the big name for me, I mean, especially with Maharo now leaving, Jack Endries, the 6'4", 230-pound redshirt freshman from Danville, California, Monte Vista High School, down the road.
Monte Vista is wild.
Down the road. He is my pick. I've said this story a bunch of times. He caught a touchdown on a seam route. Like it was like week 1 of fall camp. And the entire offense just yells out, "Baby Gronk! Baby Gronk!" And I don't want to. I we don't need to make too many Gronk. Comparisons, but he does wear the number 87. And so yeah, and we asked Spav about him in week 2, and he's been like, yeah, Jack has been balling out, which he has. He was very unknown last year. I know Jesse was pretty high on him, and like just his athletic ability. He's like, yeah, he's the real deal. And I think we got lucky here. I think we got lucky with a diamond in the rough in Jack Endries, and he looks the part. He's skyrocketed in the depth chart. I think he was running with the 2s, and I think he might be in that 1.5, type of tight end role where he's running with the 1s in certain packages, but he's cemented with the 2s and probably works his way up. With some of these guys not really being pass catchers, like Asher Alberding's a really good blocker, but he's not really the pass catching type.
Well, let me ask you this, because I remember you being really high on Ben Marshall coming out of Tennessee.
Yes.
Is he still coming? Did he not just, he wasn't there for spring? Is that why he's not on the roster?
Yeah, he'll be
coming in the fall.
Yeah, he'll be here in the fall.
Okay. You want to talk about him a little bit? Because he's 6'5", 220 as well.
I do like him, but I mean, we're going off of guys that we have seen, right? We've only seen Ben Marshall in his high school tape. Like, I don't know what it looks like when he's playing against actual, 22-year-old, middle linebackers and outside linebackers. Like, can he even block against those guys is a big part.
Fair enough. Well said.
But Jack Endries, as of right now, my sleeper pick, the fans will remember his name come fall.
Love it. Okay, defense.
What about you? No offense pick for you?
No. We got to go your defensive pick.
Oh, my God. All right. My defensive pick. I'll go with the easy one here. It's Noel Williams. It's the easiest one. I mean, as I've said on multiple other podcasts, I did not think Noel Williams was going to come and hit the ground running as well as he did in spring ball. I did not think he was going to be vying for a starting position. I thought he was more of a dude that was going to shore up some of the depth. But no, I think he has firmly grasped one of the cornerback spot opposite of Lumagia Hearns. And he's been outstanding. Just his footwork's great. His instincts are great. He's a ball hawk. He plays the ball well, and that's one of my biggest takeaways from him is that he tracks the ball, but he also has he's very good instinctually with where his body is in relation to the wide receiver. So you're never going to see him like overstretch for like a tip ball or to get his hand on the ball. Like he's Andy, I'll give you the tennis reference here. Like he's actually going to move his feet, and slide one more step to get that forehand instead of like just trying to swing at it and then to get it over the net. He's going to try and do that just so his body's in a better place to make a better play. And that's the type of cornerback he is. I was proven wrong, and I am very excited to watch him play.
And it was Cam Sidney the one that came over from Colorado, or who was the other DB that came over from Colorado?
Kalen Moore, number 4.
Okay. All right.
Kalen Moore was Colorado.
I mean, yeah, I've heard Noel was the one that graded out really well on the advanced analytics, and to have that, I mean, it sounds like what you're saying is that ultimately it's like someone that not only is gifted but puts in the work and is in the conditioning to be successful. Does that mean Irby is not? Does that mean he played like
he's probably 3? He's probably CB3.
And is Woodson the nickel?
Woodson would be the starting safety. I'd probably put Patrick. So if we're making out the depth chart, I think on the backside, Woodson and McMorris, who's coming in, is probably your starting safeties. Your starting corners are probably Noel Williams and Lumagia Hearns. Your starting nickel is probably I'd say DeJuan Butler or Matt Littlejohn, or Colin Gamble when he's healthy is probably your nickel. And then your outside corner depth is Irby and Isaiah Young.
Damn, it's so deep, dude.
It's really
crazy.
Deep. It's really deep.
And that's why. And ultimately, if you look at Caleb Higgins, is that why he's leaving?
I would assume so. I mean, I had high hopes for him. Nam had high hopes for him, but it just didn't pan out. And guys came in and overtook some of the snaps, and he just, I guess, situationally just couldn't develop fast enough to be able to take some spots. It sucks, but I mean that's sports, right? It's so cutthroat.
Yeah, it's the reality of this level.
Yeah, there's always going to be someone that's gunning for your spot, and they're not going to wait for you forever. But yeah, those are my guys. Give me one offense and give me one defense for you too.
Nah, can't do that.
You gotta pick at least, or tell me someone that you're excited to see in the fall. Like I gave you guys that like I'm excited for after watching spring ball, but just like who are you excited to see come North Texas game?
Well, I'm very excited about Aiden Lee. I just think he's super dynamic. I don't know. I just don't know if he's breaking, like where he's at in regards to breaking into, the offense, and if he's going to be on like as a part of the ones or part of the twos. But he's always been someone that I felt like was a playmaker. So I'm really excited to see what that ends up being, or if that ends up being anything. I don't know. I'm really excited to see like what Brett Johnson looks like.
Yeah.
Right. It's like even on the spring game broadcast, they're talking about just like how even after everything he's gone through, like he's been hurt twice. Right.
Yeah.
And one of those like bad, like car accident. So like, and they're still talking about him like first day NFL draft pick, and
talent wise. Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't want to set that expectation, but it's just the potential that he has.
Yeah.
And somebody like that with the rest of the D line, like the D line is a lot of people that we know the names of. Like there's not like Stanley McKenzie, Jaden Roberts, like these are Derek Wilkins, Keely Calhoun. I'm gonna forget my guy from Utah for some reason.
Xavier Carlton.
Yeah. But like we know these people and there's a reason for that. So there's experience there. If you add somebody that can be, we've talked about this for years. I feel like I've said this every single year. You add someone like Brett Johnson. Look at the Niners. The Niners defense is very much driven by the success of the defensive line, and they know that, and they invested again. And D line is probably going to be awesome again this year, like barring catastrophic injury. So, and what does that do? Like it allows you to plug in these guys. Like we're plugging guys at DB that mainly had like very much like kind of been journeyman guys, and all of a sudden they look awesome, right? Because the quarterback is always under pressure and doesn't have time to really expose them the way they might if you didn't have that pressure up front. So that's absolutely critical. I honestly feel like any of my other picks with having only seen the spring game just would be disingenuous. So I'm just going to stay safe and go there. But I'm really excited to see what it looks like in the fall, and I don't end it here, which is I told Rob, but I ended up finally at long last. It wasn't because of a phone call, which I was actually kind of bummed about. Like I used to get those phone calls and be like, "Hey, like you're going to Cal games. Do you want to be a season ticket holder?" And I was like no one's hitting me up at all. Like, but I guess they don't know that I've been in on the press pass, and that probably doesn't show up in their database. But
Yeah.
at long last,
Well, they call me too, so yeah, they definitely they don't know.
they called you.
They've called no, they haven't called me recently, but they
All right.
used to.
Dude, I used to exactly. I used to get calls all the time.
It's probably because we haven't bought any tickets in a while.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But I pulled the trigger. So I forget the section. CC maybe? Catch me at CC. I probably won't be there, but that's where the seats will be. I got 2 seats because I got a baby girl Eva to bring to the games. Diana's gonna come more often on that's a strong verbal right now. That's not anything more than a verbal, but that is what it is.
Confidence rating of a 7.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure what the Rivals guys are grading that out at, but she's got a couple other offers out there. USF's coming pretty hard, but I think she's going to hold firm and attend a couple Cal games, and Eva's going to be at hopefully every single home game this season, which will be great. And I'm so excited to finally, have the opportunity to pass this on to someone else, even if it is a life that doesn't choose you and isn't the most glamorous. I really had to think about it. I was like, do I do this? And like at the end of the day, once she was born, there was no question. Pre-birth, I was like, I don't know if this is the nicest thing to do. Post-birth, I was like, there's no question in my mind.
You knew it was, and then it was just it's done now.
It was written.
It was written. Yeah. You came down with 2 stone tablets saying that Eve was going to be a Cal fan.
Yes, I was looking at the seer stones. Exactly.
Oh my goodness. I think that's it. I think that's a good place to end it. Like it's actually, give me 1 second here. I did put out a tweet asking people if they wanted to send us some of their takes or anything of that sort. Let's see if we got anything, Andy. Let's see if we got anything. Ooh, we got a couple of notifications. Ooh, we got 2. This is how we'll end it.
The excitement is real.
Excitement is real. Yeah.
We got a couple notifications.
All right. Our first one is from Gerardo, our dear friend Gerardo. How do you feel about the QB battle? The RB room seems light right now with injuries. Does anything seem major? What's the word out there on other transfers coming in? Go Bears. We'll go one at a time. Andy, one-liner on how you feel about the quarterback battle?
I think it's more exciting than it's been, and therefore I feel good about it.
Okay, that's a good one. The running back room seems light right now with injuries. Does anything seem major? I can answer that one. No, nothing seems major outside of Justin William Thomas is in a boot, but that was That injury, I think, came before spring ball started. So I think what the coaches were saying is that they're optimistic that all guys will be healthy by the start of fall camp / the season. So we should be 100%. But that doesn't mean that they're not looking in the transfer portal. What's the word out there on other transfers coming in? Go Bears. There's a lot of positions they're looking for. I mean, if you watch the post practice interviews after spring ball, they kind of talked about a quarterback. They're definitely looking at offensive line, and there's a bunch of guys that they're looking at. And then also, I think what was the other position? Defensive line as well. Whether that be defensive end or nose, they're looking for some more bodies there. I think they're trying to go the route of what they did with the defensive backs, which is not bringing guys for depth reasons, but bringing guys that could potentially be starters.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic for what Cal can do in the portal in the NIL era.
Yeah, if a couple guys fall our way in the transfer portal that are like in top tier, it could transform our projections for the season easy.
Yep.
And you would only need like one or two guys. All right. Andy, our friend Sid sends us a question. Out of the injured players, who is the biggest loss on defense and offense?
Just out of those that are hurt?
Yeah, that are hurt right now. I mean, granted, we don't know the severity of the guys that are hurt. But let's say they were all healthy before the start of the season. Yeah, let's play it that way. They're all healthy before the start of the season, and then they go down right before the season started. Who would be the biggest loss?
You already know that answer.
Yeah. Defensively, it's Brett Johnson.
It's Brett Johnson, without any doubt. I mean, and then it's, I think, offensive on the offense. It's Jaden.
Yeah.
But Jaden, you could probably make a counter against that and say, well, you brought in Byron Cardwell, and like you have somebody there like Justin Williams Thomas, like those guys.
Yeah.
There's hype. So maybe you have. We see it every year in the NFL. It's not like college doesn't mimic that in a lot of ways. Like running backs can be replaced. And so I hate to say it, but like Jaden to me is clearly like the potential of the team is higher with him on it. Yep. But if he were to get hurt, like you could probably buoy the injury.
Yep.
Brett Johnson is at a severe position of need. And if he were to go down, I would look at the same way. And maybe this is maybe a little controversial, but like let's live there and say like Jackson Sermon. Yeah. I feel like that'd be a huge blow too. Like tons of experience, just kind of like stalwart. I know like some folks don't love the advanced analytics on him, but like I just think like someone that has that experience, understands defense. I guess. All right, one more would be like center. So
yeah, Cindric didn't play, so but it did sound like he's getting healthy and he'll be ready for the start of season. But yeah, not having Cindric is huge.
Dude, here listening to the Kelsey podcast or whatever, I don't even know what podcast, but I was listening to Jason Kelsey talk about like he was talking about the Super Bowl, and he was talking about the specific, like he was like, I don't have any issues with the referees at the end of the game making that call. He said, I have issues with the call outs that I made that when I was recognizing what the defense was setting up in that I missed. And I was like, oh my God, like center is way more important. And I know Wilcox always talks about it. Like Wilcox always said it. He's like, dude, center's hell of important in regards to the offense. And I think it's like critically underrated how important the center position is in the success of your team. And so let's hope that Cindric's healthy.
Look, I'll go back to the quote that I said earlier. There's a reason Spav said that they tested out 10 guys at center. There's no reason you'd be testing 10 different guys at a single position if you didn't think that was important.
Only 10? Why not 20?
I don't think we have 20 guys.
It's a great question.
That's a real good one. Yeah, I was going to say Cindric as well. For the offensive line. Defensively, of course, it's Brett Johnson. Andy, can I ask you one more question before we go?
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of like a hot take type of question, all right? In your opinion, who ends the season with more touches, Jaden Ott or Byron Cardwell?
I hope it's Jaden Ott.
And this
But
is not,
I guess,
not
like-
because of injury, right? That's not what I'm saying. Like I'm not trying to come off of the injured player question, but just
Look, I'll say it's going to be the one that's I think truly it'll be the one. It'll be the running back that's the better pass catcher. So I don't know who that's going to be, but I think, like, to your point, when you're talking about like Debo, when I think about Debo,
Yeah.
Debo's a receiver and a running back. So if that's the way that our offense is going to function, and then you're going to need somebody that has really good hands.
Yeah.
So yeah, the one that has the better hands. I mean, if Cardwell is what we think he's going to be, but Jaden Ott has that speed that's that lethal speed that you can't coach. And I don't know, man. That's like the potential of that is so hard to say no to.
Yeah, I mean, look, the reason I asked this question is just because, like, Cardwell came here because he was being buried in the depth chart, at Oregon. That means he had to have gotten some sort of I don't want to say promise for snaps, but something the coaches said of like, look, you're the number 2 and the snap count's not going to be that different.
Give me 2 1,000-yard running backs. That would be fantastic. Or maybe it would be total yard.
Yeah.
Running backs.
Give me 2 offensive yard running backs, like two running backs that give me 1,000 yards on offense, whether that be through the air or on the ground.
Yep,
dude. Yeah, heck yes. Oh, we're already driving that hype, and it's not even May.
What is it?
April
23rd.
It's April 23rd.
Excellent.
We got 3 months before even fall camp even starts. And we're just hanging out here.
Baby.
Oh my god. All right. Well, that wraps it up here for us on the California Golden Bear Cast. You can find all our written stuff at rightforcalifornia.com. There's some cool stuff going up over the next few weeks. Peter's got an advanced play breakdown look at some of the things we were doing on offense and on defense. That's going to be a paid post, so make sure you subscribe to Right for California. And if you found us, you know where we are. So you can get us on Twitter, but Twitter is also slightly dying. So make sure you join Right for California for all the updated news and all of those sorts of things. In the meantime, we don't know when we'll be back. We're going to try and be back soon if there's more stuff to talk about. Hopefully there's some transfer stuff to talk about over the next couple of weeks. Fingers crossed. But that's it for us, and we call it here. And as always, go Bears.
Go Bears.